This is Avani. Hey, YouTube seekers, this is Avani from Ecstatic Earth Arts. I'm just getting my Instagram set up for our live today, where we're going to be chatting about 6 celebration ideas for your summer solstice celebrations. Try saying that 5 times fast. If you're not familiar, the summer solstice is actually on tomorrow, I believe, the 20th. Which means that it is time for my regular video where I give you ideas on how you might like to observe it / celebrate. I'm not sure how that lighting is helping us on YouTube, but we're going to give it a shot. I'm going to open up a second tab on Facebook for comments, because sometimes it doesn't show them to me. So give me a second to try that. Also, I'm not sure if I shared this in my group, so I'm going to have to check on that too, because, we are a little bit... Yeah, I did not do that right. Okay, that's alright, no big deal. I'm going to share it separate. So hang in there with me as I do that and get Instagram set up. Hey Instagram seekers, this is Avani from Ecstatic Earth Arts, and this week I am here to tell you about 6 ideas for celebrating your summer solstice this weekend, which the summer solstice itself, that's kind of a tongue twister, actually starts or is tomorrow. And I accidentally, hey Stiff, I am just getting set up. I'm going to be doing my live stream this week about summer solstice. So if you have any summer solstice plans, please tell me about them in the comments. I'd love to hear more. You can also give me a hashtag live. It helps the algorithms help other folks find us. I forgot to automatically cross-post my video on Facebook into my group, so I'm just doing that right now. I just need to... There we go. I'm going to share this in... fat fingers. I accidentally put it on page, not group. Share in a group. Hey, Sarah, we are going to chat about summer solstice today. I'm just sharing to the Ecstatic Witch because I totally failed at doing it automatically when I started the video, which is what I usually do. Here we go. It's officially shared in the group. So if you guys are here and you're already watching, if you just want to give me a really quick hashtag live, or if you're watching second hand, after the fact, give me a hashtag replay. That's also awesome. That helps other people find us through the algorithms. And then tell me in the comments what you guys are planning for this weekend. Even if it's not summer solstice plans, I would love to hear what you guys got going on. I'm in the tail end of a hair transformation. So forgive my hair if it looks a little rough. I kind of realized 15 minutes ago, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be going live really soon, and I'm super not ready. So I kind of just threw it in a relatively presentable way, and it may or may not actually be presentable. So thank you very much, Eastiff, for that hashtag live. So while we're waiting, I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm planning on doing. I didn't do a very good job of planning ahead for what my pre-show is going to be. I usually first few minutes try to see, and now Facebook is telling me 3 people are watching, but it's not telling me who again, which is really special. It says watching now, and it's showing me just Sarah, but the eye says 3, so that's weird. Not sure what that's about. So my plans for this weekend, I am going to be doing my own personal summer solstice ritual. Hey Megan, glad you can make it on Facebook. If you want to give me a hashtag live in the comments on Facebook, that'd be swell. And give me, in the comments, tell us a little bit about what your summer solstice plans are. I would love to hear about it. Once we give it a few more minutes for people to show, we'll talk a little bit more. I'll go into all the things I want to talk about. In the meantime, I'm going to chat about my plans, because why not? I'm planning to do actually the ritual that hey Tabitha, talking about Midsummer today, and I'm going to be doing my ritual that I actually created, that I'm selling in my shop, which is still available if anybody wants it, especially if you have belated solstice plans, or belated plans to celebrate, I should say, and you haven't already come up with a decision what you're going to do. It kind of takes all the work out of it, which is pretty neat. It's a purification ritual, and it's intended / designed to be super kid-friendly. So it will absolutely involve my children and probably splashing around and having fun with some water, I hope. Hey, Mary Montgomery, we're here today. We're going to be chatting about Midsummer Letha Summer Solstice celebration ideas. You caught us right at the very front end of this, so if you want to do me a favor and pop into the comments and tell me a little bit about what your plans are for the weekend, I would love to hear, even if they don't include solstice plans. And also, if you guys could give me a hashtag live in the comments so other people can find us easier, that would be helpful also. Hey, David Armburst, we're talking about solstice today. I'm going to give it like a minute and then I'm going to hop in. Other than doing my own personal solstice ritual this weekend, I'm also hoping to finish my hair. Like I said, that's kind of an ongoing project right now. And I have a painting project to do, so not this weekend, but next weekend. Actually, my friend and I, Megan, who is actually currently with us on Facebook, we're going to be having a baby blessing for my son and my daughter, which were born a couple months apart earlier this year. And I have in plans to paint a couple of wood blanks that my father-in-law was nice enough to shape for me into statues of Odin and Frigg. And if you follow me on Instagram and on Facebook already, you'll see updates of that next weekend. That's usually during the week, I tend to focus on my work art. And then on the weekend right now, I'm usually doing my personal art. I actually start back at my day job on Tuesday, so we'll see if that changes. I suspect that it will be weekends for just all art. So it'll be interesting to see if I get time for anything else. Mary on Instagram says she's going to make a small altar in a jar and planting some flowers and hostas in her little garden. It's a great time to be working with plants. Plant magic. We're going to talk about that. Actually, probably not. I think I'm going to get started because we're about 6 minutes past, and I don't want to wait too long because most people don't have the patience to sit here and wait for me to chat and wait. So thank you for telling me that. In a jar, yes. I figured out what you meant. I kind of, put two and two together. Megan, I would love to hear what you're doing because I know that you must have some solstice plans with that amazing fire pit of yours. So real quick, before we start talking about, hey Kevin, hey Nature Witch, we're talking about summer solstice celebration ideas. Say that 10 times fast. Before we talk about actual ideas, I personally, this is just me, and I'm hoping I can pass it on to you guys. I really love to get inspiration for my solstice or all of my rituals from history and the things that our ancestors did before us. So before I get into the actual ideas of what I had, I thought it'd be cool to talk about history and the festivals that traditionally happen around this time of year that we can kind of draw on for inspiration. Megan on Facebook says this weekend she's going to have a fire with dancing to bless her garden. She has a great garden in her yard. We're personal friends in real life. I happen to know that she has a lot of vegetables and cool things planted there. So, again, super awesome. Please PM me and tell me when that is because I might be interested in that. And I could bring a drum and noisemakers and lots more tiny dancers who might be really, really into that idea. So, getting back to what I was talking about with the history. So, first of all, one of the common things that hey, Midnight Rituals, we're here talking about summer solstice celebration ideas, and I'm going to talk about the historical festivals that happen this time of year, back that our ancestors were celebrating and kind of, tapping into that for our ideas later on. So the first culture that I want to talk about are the Greeks. Traditionally around this time of year, and even up till, modern day, maybe not this year, because I believe they only do them every 4 years. It's been a long time since I've paid attention to the Olympics, but the Greeks regularly started the Olympics around midsummer. You get the ritual of the passing of the torch, the lighting of the torch, and all of those things. That was what was happening at this time of year. So the idea of summertime games are a really big part of midsummer traditions. Another thing that you might consider is the Romans. So we talked about the Greeks, now we're going to talk about the Romans. The Romans regularly celebrated a festival called Vestalia during midsummer around this time of year, which was actually devoted to the themes around purification by water. And it was also a really common time to make offerings to deities. Obviously, if those deities had to do with water, it was sort of like doing double duty. So, and then now we can kind of click on to the Celts. The Celts and the Druids, they tended to do a lot with herbal magic and herb rituals and herb lore. And if you haven't already checked out my blog that I did this week, it was all about Midsummer Herb Lore. If you're on Facebook, You can find that blog post. I actually put it right in the description section that you have to the right side of the video here. If you're on YouTube, I will certainly post it in the description for you. And if you're on Instagram, you're probably going to have to find your way to one of those two things. If you hit the link that's in my bio, it'll bring you to an opt-in for my email list, which also gives you a link to my website. You can find the blog that way. Plus, it gives you 20% off everything on the web shop, so bonus is there. Like I said, I have my summer solstice ritual in there if you haven't already got plans. And I don't want to jinx myself, but so far the post office hasn't bungled any of my shipments, so just throwing that out there. So it probably will get to you, knock on wood, in a reasonable time frame if you were interested in that. So we talked about the Celts and the Romans and the Greeks. The next thing I want to talk about are the Norse Germanic people. So we have to think about these folks. They lived up quite in the north where it was very cold and it was not a very hospitable environment for most of the year. And for them, the solstices, both the winter and summer solstice, were of very prime importance. So if you look back in history, they tended to have really big celebrations around the solstices. And even still today, like I believe it's in Iceland, they have a really popular festival. That's a word that I can't possibly pretend to know how to pronounce, that they still celebrate. But the themes around that were usually to do with fire rituals, and they tend to do a lot of bonfires. And again, so with the Romans, hey, Centerners, we're talking about the history of summer solstice celebrations. We can use those to draw on for our modern celebrations. Anybody who wasn't here at the beginning, if you could do me a favor and just throw a hashtag live into the comments, that'd be really great because it helps other people find us because of the algorithms and science and computer stuff. So Greeks did, the Romans were doing rituals that were inspired by purification by water, but the Norse Germanic people tend to do rituals that were inspired by purification by the elements of fire. So, and a lot of, that was what I was when I was doing all my research for the ritual that I wrote, that's a lot of the themes that I came across. Hey, home, we're talking about the history of summer solstice celebrations and how we can draw on those for our modern day celebrations. But what I was coming across in my research was a lot of things that were talking specifically about fire and water. And I love the idea of utilizing those simply because they are in some ways opposites of each other. Not literally if you look at them on, like a compass or anything and directionally correspondence wise. But I really love the idea of fire and water because they're opposites. And a lot of the things that I do in my personal practice have a lot to do with this sort of synthesis of opposites, energetically speaking, masculine, feminine, fire, water, so on and so forth. So I really love that idea personally. So like the ritual I wrote includes the fire and water together because I thought that was a really cool theme. Hey, from the ashes we rise. We are chatting about summer solstice and summer solstice ritual ideas. So modern day celebrations are, like I said, there is that celebration that's in Iceland, but there are lots of places that do festivals at this time of the year that are really popular, really common. Hey, Pip Harwich, we're talking about summer solstice ideas. New folks, we could toss a hashtag live in the comments. That'd be great. It'll help the algorithm pop this out to more people so that they'll see it. So the street festivals that we find out there, the most common, I did a bunch of research on this. Most of the modern festivals that you find, there's a lot of folk. It's like a street festival, there's lots of food and there's music and there's parades. In said parades, often you find people very scantily clad or painted with body paint and performing, and it's very, celebratory. It's a very lighthearted celebration because, if we look back at our ancestors and what they were doing this time of year, it was exciting. Everything was green, everything was lush, everything was growing. There was at that exact moment in time, at the very least, no need to fear where's my next meal going to come from. Everything was in abundance. It was a great time to be alive, so they celebrated. And it was warm, and they weren't have to worry about being cold or building fires at night. It was a great time as far as they were concerned. So that was what they did. Modern day, every time we celebrate, there's food and music and things like that involved. So that's what people do today. And I forgot to look it up. I'm going to pull it up on my tablet here because I think it's really cool. I know that locally to me, Fire and Ice Festival. There is something called Fire and Ice Festival, which is, I think I thought it was in Rhode Island, but now that I'm plugging this in, it's showing me a ton. Putnam, I guess that's usually for Imbolc. all right, I forgive me, I'm totally off here, but there's fire and ice festivals everywhere. I guess I was just assuming they were kind of together because of the water um, fire thing. But I guess people are tapping into it different time of year, which is fun. Um, so modern day festivals, yeah, street festivals. But if we can kind of peel all of that back, so we talked about the history of it in the Greek culture, the Roman culture, the Celts, and the Norse Germanic people. And if we kind of peel back the layers of culture and specific mythology and specific stories, we can kind of see that there are themes that kind of run through them. And so the common themes that tend to run through the holiday like celebrations that were traditionally partaken of. A centered Earth says there is a fire and ice festival in Providence, Rhode Island. There's 2 per year. Is it this time of year usually in the summertime? Let me know. I would love to hear because I'm glad to know that I'm not totally crazy. So thank you for letting me know. She's not the month. All right, or excuse me. I don't know if you're a she. They said. I will look it up again. Let's see. Rhode Island fire and ice festival. I'm really curious now. Maybe I wasn't crazy. Waterfireprovidence.org. Let's see. It has its own website. My computer's just being really slow and trying to load it for me. Come on, resolving host. Oh, please don't tell me this disconnected. No, okay, we're good. Sometimes my computer, I have 3 different devices happening. I've got Facebook here, Instagram here, and YouTube over here. And sometimes like one will decide to back up. Senator says it's called Waterfire, which makes me feel even better about the fact that I was assuming that it had to do with summer solstice instead of water and ice, because I'm like, wow, that makes sense that would not have been summertime. Where was my brain at? So I'm not totally nuts. Let's see. Explore news. Let's try news because it's not telling me exactly. Like, there's not like a thing that says, past events. Plan your visit. Explore, donate. 2020 water fire lightings. Let's try that. Coronavirus. We don't have any lightings scheduled. That's fine. I wasn't expecting you to. I was hoping you could give me an idea of when you usually do it. Blah, blah, blah. Well, all right. I'm having a hard time finding it because everything is, super shut down because of the pandemic. Check back for here. Let's go to their Facebook page. In the meantime, while I'm kind of researching that, talking about the common themes of summer solstice, because I don't want to get too lost in this detail because it's kind of a little thing. If we peel back all the kind of layers that go along with that, nope, this isn't telling me either. I give up. Well, we're just going to guess that water fire is probably at wintertime and summertime because it kind of makes sense with the theme. So, Senator says, Centered Hearth is a team of 5 folk, but I'm Molly, and the social media and networking gal, I'm a she, her. Awesome, great. Now I don't feel as guilty. I have, my oldest child is non-binary. So in our house, we try really, really hard to pay attention to pronouns. And actually, my non-binary sister just joined us too on Facebook. So I say sister, sibling. Again, I'm a work in progress. I'm trying my best here. So, but we try to pay attention to pronouns and be respectful because obviously that stuff matters. So common themes in summer solstice celebrations. Now that I've kind of gotten over that bender trying to figure out the water fire thing. So common themes are purification, healing, and honoring of the divine masculine specifically, especially because in a lot of traditional occult systems and pagan, super itchy, pagan systems, the sun specifically was associated with the divine masculine or the god of the goddess binary, as it were. So, and at the solstices, both winter and summertime, is when people tend to focus the most on the divine masculine, which I think is great because I feel like it kind of gets swept under the rug a lot. So I think that it's a really great time to kind of pay attention to that. But also kind of cool story, just by sort of paying attention to the sun at all, to me that's in a way honoring the divine masculine. And there's lots of different ways that can be done. We'll talk about that more after. But those are the kind of common themes that we can pull out of those historical solstice celebrations to use for inspiration for our modern day celebrations. So that said, I am going to roll now into what is the official title of this live stream, which is 6 Ways to Celebrate the Summer Solstice. Number 1, a cookout. I know, super simple and seems kind of mundane, but hear me out. If you're going to do a cookout, summer solstice is like the time to do it. And in great part, at least for me and my personal associations, summer solstice is like 9 times out of 10 the same weekend as Father's Day. And who doesn't want to do a cookout on Father's Day? It's really funny. When I used to go to public rituals in my area, like almost like always across the board, the rituals were like on the day that my family, everybody I wanted to be spending time with, was doing cookouts for Father's Day. And half the time I couldn't be there or I had to show up late. And I'm here to say, why not both? There's no reason why you can't piggyback them, especially if you're celebrating yourself at home with your kids or whoever. I'm getting a personal message here. Second Heart says, that's awesome. Hex, yes, we have lots of LGBT plus representation on our team. Love that you honor and prioritize pronouns. Yes, they are super important because they just are. You know, not to get into too much detail here, but my oldest first started talking about being non-binary a few years ago, and it's really taken us until the past like 6 months to a year to really hardcore kind of like settle on like, okay, these are the pronouns that you really want us to use, and really committing to it. Because up until that point, it was sort of like, is this a thing? Are you sure? And they have definitely decided like, this is important to me. This is what I want you to do. And we've been telling teachers, and I even had a little bit of a battle with the karate studio that they were going to use the right pronouns. And you know, they regularly do like yes sirs and yes ma'ams, and the question was, well, you know, what is the right thing to do there? What they ultimately settled on, just so you know, I'm not leaving you hanging, was to say, you know, use Phoenix's name instead of going with sir or ma'am, or choosing, you know, a gender neutral, you know, word that was perhaps confusing for people. So instead of saying yes ma'am, they just go yes Phoenix, and which is Witchling number 1's name, Phoenix. So yeah. So that's my little non-binary Witchling number 1 story. Moving on. So let's go on. So we talked about our cookout. If you're having a cookout, and especially if you're piggybacking that onto your Father's Day celebrations, a great time to also do those summer games we were talking about, which were really big with the Greeks, you know, in the Olympic Games. You know, we don't have to get crazy and do like super historic games, you know, because we are living in a modern world. We could do things like badminton. I don't know about you, like I'm super white. We do badminton when we're at cookouts, or bocce, or if you've got kids, you could do water balloons and water gun fights, or, you know, because again, tapping into the idea of fire and water. And I think that's a big part of why those things kind of go hand in hand, because, you know, very simply, when it's hot, you want to get in the water. Hey, Cindy, on Facebook, we're just talking about summer solstice celebration ideas. We're just talking about the idea of having a cookout and doing games and badminton. If you are not white, for the love of God, well, maybe if you're not white, maybe you don't do cookouts. But if you are not white and you also have cookouts, tell me in the comments below what you guys usually do for fun at those, because I'm clueless and I would love to know for my future reference when I'm doing these things, what I can suggest to people. But you know, like I said, the idea of a cookout might seem really like mundane and normal and boring, but I say it all the time, and I'm going to say it again, that anything that you do with intention can be a ritual. And it can be as simple as, after you cook the food, saying a blessing over it, you know, and thanking the sun for its part that it had to play in the food, you know, making its way to your table. And that can be your ritual. It doesn't have to be crazy, especially if you have kids, because with kids, sometimes it can be a real challenge to, you know, include them in like real formalized ritual. You know, they don't have a ton of patience for that. So it comes down to finding more fun ways to incorporate it, and that can absolutely be one. Just doing having a ritual meal together, that you just say a little thing like, "This is a ritual meal, and this is why," and you know, let's eat. You know, it doesn't have to get any more complicated than that, unless you want it to, and there are lots of ways that you can do that. One thing that you can do is you can visit another thing, you know, tapping into that theme. Hey, Whimsy Reader, talking about 6 ways that you can celebrate your summer solstice. I just talked about cookouts, which was idea number 1. Number 2 that we're talking about, if you're new, by the way, on Facebook or Instagram, if you want to do me a favor and throw a hashtag live into the comments, that would be swell. Or if you're watching this, you know, on the second time around, hashtag replay. It will help other people find this, you know, with the algorithms and bots and all the computers, things like that. So one of the other themes we can tap into that we talked about earlier in regards to the sort of historical celebrations for the solstice was the idea of purification with the element of water. So you could literally visit a body of water, especially, I think, ideally one that's moving water, like a river or a stream, or even the ocean. If you happen to live close enough to one to make that trip, and all the more so if you have the ability to go to one and have a sense of privacy, because most of the beaches I go, there's not a whole lot of that. So I would much rather go to like a little local stream because I like the idea of feeling, secluded just a little bit. And you can literally just get into the water and with no altar required whatsoever, just stand in it and let the water wash over you and let it purify you. Again, with intention, like I said, because anything done with intention can be a ritual. And let it just run through you and imagine that the river or the stream or whatever water is just carrying all of things that you want to get rid of out and away from you. And, go swimming, because swimming in the water is wonderful and cooling and refreshing because it's hot this time of year. Today it's like 90 degrees and super sticky and hot and gross here. Which is a really lovely idea. All the better yes, if you have kids and there's a watering hole near you that you can bring them to and you think they would love, they would enjoy doing that with you, absolutely bring them with. If you're solitary or if you're a mom and you don't want your kids to come with you, it can also be a great just little getaway that requires absolutely no tools or prep or anything. You're just going out into the woods to a stream and just going for a little dip, and it can be really refreshing both spiritually and physically. So that was number 2. Number 3 idea for things you can do to celebrate your summer solstice. Go foraging for herbs. I actually just did that yesterday with Witchling number 3. Ironically, number 3, Witchling 3. She's sort of my little foraging partner. She's debatably better at it than I am. I think it's because she's closer to the ground. That's the excuse that I'm giving myself. So a lot of cultures believe that herbs and plants and flowers were all at their most medicinally potent at midsummer or at this time of year. So going out and collecting herbs at this time of year is actually very traditional and kind of plays into that whole healing theme that we were talking about going with the summer solstice. Where was I? And if you are not already super into herbs, Sarah says here, I love when these lives go sideways with extra tidbits addressing key issues like LGBTQ+ and BAME. I don't know what BAME means, so let me know in the comments. That one's new to me. Individuals, and then whoosh, back on topic. I guess I'm glad I can entertain you. I guess I'm always afraid to go too far off because I don't want people to take off because I'm not staying on where I said I was going to be. So I'm glad that somebody enjoys that part at the very least. But yes, tell me what BAME means. I've never heard that one before. So if you are not already really working with herbs, and especially if you want to, and you haven't really known where your entry point is, or you're not really sure where to start, and you're like, well, I want to go do that. Sounds like a lot of fun, but I don't know how. There are, not to be cliche, but there are a ton of great apps for that you can download that are great for identifying different plants and herbs that you find in nature. So I have some crazy hair things happening here. So the one that I use is called Picture This. And there is a free version, although I pay for mine because I think I just don't have patience for ads and I use it all the time, especially at this time of year. Another thing, I don't have it written in here. Let me get through the apps first, and then I'll say what I was going to say, because I said I get off track a little too easily. Some other apps that I found online that you might find useful, there's one called Plant Snap, that's all one word, or Plant Lens, or Like That Garden, all one word again. All of those are relatively highly rated and usually recommended for folks that are looking for information. I've said a gazillion times in these lives, I have the world's blackest thumb, or at least I used to say that. I'm actually doing reasonably well with some potted herbs that I have on my porch right now, so maybe I spoke too soon. But Sarah here says BAME means Black, Asian, and minority ethnic. I see. So my comment about what do non-white people have for cookouts. Yes, I would love to know because I have no idea. But thank you for letting me know. That's good for me to know in the future. I'm sure that that's a lot more common word for other people. I'm just clueless because, white. But thank you for educating me. So I find that foraging is a really great entry point into learning herbs because it's really easy for you to just walk down the street and be like, oh, that plant catches my attention. What is that plant? What does that plant do? And you can just go snap, and your phone will magically tell you what it is with a reasonable, margin of error, because it's doing it off of a photograph. I find that plant this tends to be correct like 9 times out of 10. Your mileage may vary. Part of it's going to depend on the quality of the photo and the device you're using too, of course. But it's really great because, if you are just going out and looking for a plant, or you really just want to find a few, it's really easy for you to sort of curate or limit the number of herbs that you go looking for. Like once you find 2, once you find 3, you can be like, yep, that's enough for today. I've learned enough. I don't want to overload my brain. Then that's totally a thing that you can do. You just go out, snap a few, figure out what they are, and you can start working with them slowly one at a time. One time I took a course from a woman who was teaching herbalism. I didn't get to finish it because me and herbs have been kind of uphill struggle for a while, and they're just this summer finally started to click a little bit again because I'm doing the same thing with the foraging. But she would say, go out into nature, go on a walk, and see what herbs pull your attention. And pick the one that kind of sticks out to you the most, and then work with it. Work with it for a season, work with it for a year, get to really know it and meditate with it. And that could be a kind of entry point too into working with herbs. But some herbs that are found in abundance at this time of year that you might come across, at least near me, I can't speak to everyone because I know that there are people here from all over. Sarah at the very least is in the UK. I'm on the East Coast in the US, so totally different places, so I don't know what's going to translate, cross location wise. But ones that I find all over the place near me, even in my own backyard, are chicory, mugwort, plantain. Plantain is like everywhere, and it's flowering right now. Red clover, also at the tail end of its flowering right now, which I know because I went looking for it yesterday, and I should have done that a lot sooner. And mullein and burdock you see a lot, and coral, which if you're Pip Harriet says she's in the UK. Actually, I think I knew that because I follow you. But yes, people all over the place. Hey Ariel, we're talking about using the summer solstice as an opportunity to learn a lot about herb lore, which is the third of 6 things that we're talking about as ideas for your summer solstice celebrations. Sorrel, if you're not familiar, I don't know if you guys have that growing over in the UK. But sorrel is actually sometimes also referred to as American shamrock. So if you've ever seen the picture that people draw, like an artwork of a shamrock where the leaves are heart-shaped, that's actually not a clover. It's actually sorrel, which is sometimes also called American shamrock. American clover, one of those things. So it's actually totally different. So it's basically the shamrock plant. And it's also an edible that tastes sort of lemony if you eat the leaves. Cool story. But that's another one that's really easy and very prolific in my area. That's really easy to come across. And if you don't mow it down, they get pretty big. I've seen them get quite large. Like my mother-in-law has some growing in her fairy garden that are impressive. So that was number 3. So number 1 for people who just joined us was having a cookout and doing summer games, including things like water balloons and badminton. Number 2 was visiting a body of water and doing a purification ritual that involved just standing in the water, no altar required. Number 3 was learning about herb craft, which you just heard a little bit about. Number 4 is having a fire, which Megan is doing. Who doesn't love having a fire? I don't know about the witches everywhere else in the world, but all the witches that I know, big fire fans, myself included. Who doesn't love a good fire? Except for my husband. He doesn't like the heat, but he still builds fires for me because he's nice like that, and he's really good at it. Or if you're going to build a fire, think about maybe building 2 fires, because historically speaking, when people were doing these purification rituals, the most common thing that they would do is they would actually jump over the fires. Oh, Centered Heart says I love this foraging insight and the app suggestions. I struggle with herbs and foraging. The app seemed like a feasible entry point for me. Me too. Like I said, it's been an uphill struggle for me with herbs since the beginning of my witchy journey, like forever ago. And I first started practicing in 2004. So it is a long time ago. So hey, Bearded Witch, we are talking about summer solstice celebrations. And right now we're just talking a bit smidge about herb foraging, and I'm going to be talking a little bit more about fire purification rituals. But yes, apps are super easy because it's literally you just go snap and it will it will analyze it and tell you what the herb is, and it's really, really convenient. But getting back to our fire idea, so commonly the way that people would have their fire celebrations is that they would jump over their fires as a way to they agree with Eccentric Hearth. I'm so glad you guys like. My husband and my friend Freedom just joined on Facebook. Hey, you guys, if you guys could throw a hashtag live into the comments, that'd be really helpful, just so other people can find us more easily too. So for fire purification, it's not super safe, obviously, if you're jumping over fires. I mean, if you're alone and you can build a small one and you want to take that risk, I'm not going to tell you you shouldn't, but you shouldn't, because it's kind of dangerous and I don't want to be responsible for that. A better, safer idea that many people tap into is they will actually have two smaller fires that are on either side of each other, and you can actually walk between the two. So in walking through this sort of gateway or doorway of fire, it's again doing the same purification act that just jumping over a fire might. Another thing that you can do is you could throw herbs into the fire, which is again another common purification ritual that is done for midsummer, kind of tapping into both the Norse Germanic themes with fire and this Celtic Druidic traditions with herb lore, and kind of putting them together in a way. Hey Christine G, we're just talking about some summer solstice celebration ideas. I'm actually on number 4 right now. Oh, and hey Laura, you too. See, look at you guys; those hashtags are working. If you're new and you didn't hear earlier, I have a blog post that's about herb lore for midsummer. It actually has specific herb suggestions that you might enjoy. If you're on Facebook, you can find it in the description to the side here, where it says, and learn more about midsummer herb lore from my blog here, and there's a link, so feel free to click. I hope I'm pointing in the right direction. Hey, Cloud Dropbreaker, we're talking about summer solstice, celebration ideas. So when you are doing the herbs in the fire for purification, my suggestion is to throw those buggers in there and take a bath in the smoke. It's just like any type of herb or smoke cleansing that you use with herbs. Sage is obviously the most common to use that we're most familiar with, but you could do it with really any herb. I'm a big fan of smoke cleanse baths. I am sort of known by my friends and my people that I do ritual with in person as having I don't want to say bad habit, but a penchant for burning a lot of sage all at once. I have this big cauldron that's like this big, and I'll just fill it with sage and just light that bad boy, and it'll just be smoke everywhere. And I just love standing in this billow of smoke and just letting it cover me, and I'm all about that. So that's a great thing you can do with your fires for midsummer also. And last but not least, for fires, especially going back to our cookout theme, which was number 1, s'mores. Because why not? Who doesn't love s'mores? Everybody loves s'mores. Everybody. So just do it. Have fun. Because midsummer is all about celebrating and enjoying the fact that it's warm and it's sunny and everything is in abundance. So have your s'mores. Be happy about it. Number 5 on our list for things that you can do to celebrate summer solstice, honoring land spirits. I will add that this is not something that I've seen on a website anywhere. It's actually something that I've sort of absorbed into my own personal practice that I just find works out this way. And I think it just has to do with the cycle of the year and when I find the time to do such things. And usually around summer solstice, so the period of time, I should say, between Beltane and summer solstice is when I tend to do a lot of my work outside in my yard, working with my outdoor altars, refreshing things, adding things, taking things out that are broken, which for me at least feels like service to the land spirits, the spirits that live in this place. And it feels like, in a way, the energetic payment that I give in order to use the land in the way that I want to use it. So one thing that you can do if you don't already have one is you could create an outdoor altar. If you own your own property, it's really easy to build a permanent altar that you leave out there. Obviously, the things that you use are important. The materials they are made out of is important. Things that are wood or metal or stone, or obviously that are made of natural materials that generally be outside already anyway, are going to hold up best over time. But there are lots of garden statues and things you can find that are made out of resin that hold up reasonably well too. They do break over time. I have a couple statues back up that are technically broken, but they're still in decent enough shape that they're still identifiable as what they're supposed to be. So I leave them there. But eventually they'll get rotated out and more things will go in. And anyway, neither here nor there. this is a great time for creating your outdoor altars and working with land spirits. Because for me, and traditionally speaking, we're going back to the Celts a little bit. We talk about the period between Beltane and Midsummer has generally regarded by the Celts and also the Anglo-Saxons traditionally, back when they were still pagan, with when the veil between our world and spirit world is that's thinnest. So we had much closer contact or ability to contact those spirits and work with them. So to me, that's part of how this all kind of fits together. Also, leaving offerings for land spirits, things like milk or honey, or going back to our previous idea, burning smoke, offering herbs in that way. I would say that if you're, going to be having a fire, you should absolutely not be having it on the ground if you're also planning on honoring your land spirits, because building fires on the ground and not in a ring, not in an established fire pit, will destroy the land that is right there around it, and nothing will grow there. It'll just become a big dirt patch, and nothing will happen. So if you're going to honor your land spirits and have a fire, do it in the right place, because then you're just kind of shooting yourself in the foot. And obviously, just as simple, and I will repeat it again because I have new people here that weren't here before. Anything that you do can be a ritual if it is done with intention. So something you can do too that's also honoring land spirits is working in your yard, doing yard work. So yeah, building a permanent altar and working with it is really nice. But if you can't or don't have the ability to do that, just going out and raking leaves or picking up pine needles. I have tons of pine needles at my house. Or picking up branches that have fallen, in the spring storms, anything like that, or trimming bushes, any of that can be an offering in a way to those land spirits, again, if you are doing it with intention. And those are really, again, sort of mundane suggestions, but, if you are like, well, I don't have time to do like a formal ritual, these are some things that you can do that are just as powerful without all the planning and accoutrement. And then finally, and I mentioned it earlier, our number six is honoring the divine masculine. So I mentioned that earlier, the idea that the Norse and the Celts, and, for them in particular, living in the North where it was a relatively inhospitable climate for growing, their growing season was very short. The solstices were really big celebrations. The winter solstice, let me start there, was actually, like, yay, the days are finally going to get longer again. This is great. We're excited. And the summer solstice was, the days are super long. Everything's abundant. We're happy. So, and the sun in particular, hey, Jewel Terra, we're talking about summer solstice celebration ideas. If you want to throw a hashtag live in the comments, that'd be really helpful for other people to find us here. We're talking about honoring the divine masculine, and the sun over the course of history has been associated in a lot of witchcraft and cult and pagan folk traditions as being associated with the divine masculine, not including the Norse. If you are a Norse pagan or you are celebrating Osachu, I recognize that in their mythology, traditionally, the sun is actually female and the moon is male. You do you. I'm kind of coming at this from a more broader, general occult perspective. If you have specific things that you like to do to honor your sun goddess for the solstice, I would love to hear about it because I don't know a ton about it, so feel free to toss that into the comments. My Facebook just froze a little bit. I'm going to give that a second to sort itself out and make sure that I'm not having other issues. Yeah, so close to being done. Oh no, it's all right. Maybe it'll come back. Broadcast has been paused. It should resume shortly. Well, folks on Instagram, if you have plans, we talked a little bit at the oh, here we go. We're going again. We'll talk about it at the end. We'll have plenty of opportunity for more chatting at the very end of this because I'm almost through. So if one of the things that you're thinking about doing is trying to find a way to honor the divine masculine, which I think is a thing worth pursuing because I feel like in most paganism or pagan rituals, there's a real strong focus on the goddess energy, which is all good and well. I understand we're trying to, overthrow the patriarchy, but I also think we don't want to disempower all of our magical men too. So honoring the divine masculine, there's a few different suggestions I have. Number one, ecstatic dance, going back to Megan with her fire. So if you're not familiar with the idea of ecstatic dance, I highly recommend you get familiar with it because it's a wonderful practice. Hey, Avi, we're talking about summer solstice celebration ideas. I'm actually on number 6 right now. At the very end, I ask for questions. I'll do a little quick overview. Sorry, I keep touching my nose, you guys. I'm like incredibly itchy today, like every day. Yay, allergies. So ecstatic dance. So also called trance dancing. So the concept behind ecstatic dance is basically putting on music or having drumming or live music, depending on the situation, what's going on, and dancing to it without any choreography or any real reason other than letting your body move intuitively, which is really lovely. So you're just kind of, it's almost like a interpretive dance, if you will. I hate using that because it has sort of a bad rap as being ridiculous. And I guess to the outside eye, trance dancing might also look ridiculous, but it's very therapeutic. Hey, Taylor, we're talking about summer solstice ideas. I'm at number 6, honoring the divine masculine. We're talking about ecstatic dance. So if you're looking at using that, again, tying that into some of the other ideas we talked about earlier, and some sort of indigenous traditions that people often use for these sorts of celebrations, you could, instead of just tapping into your own personal intuition, you could be trying to connect to the spirits of the land or to plant spirits and be dancing for those. Or you could be specifically, again, if we're doing for the divine masculine, tapping into the energy of the divine masculine itself. When I think about the divine masculine, one of the biggest archetypes that I really enjoy thinking of and working of is with Pan, which has a sort of chaotic energy to it. And in my opinion, a sort of positive way. He has a little bit of a trickster archetype going. So to me, that's the sort of energy that summer solstice sort of embodies, is this sort of trickstery, fun-loving, and a little bit like, risque, for lack of a better word. I don't know my audience here, so I don't want to get like too particular, but we're talking like divine masculine things. So with that in mind, you can channel that for dance purposes, or you could, and I'm not trying to say this delicately, you could love yourself. Sex magic, it's a thing. It doesn't have to be for an intention. It could literally just be, it could be in the sense of, wow, I totally lost my train of thought. Anyway, I said sex magic and my brain just fizzled a little bit. But I put here, love yourself, literally and figuratively. You could literally, if you have the ability, go out into the woods and, do a thing. But also just like taking care of yourself, loving yourself, and, self-care, taking a nice bath, like, especially like a bath with like honey. Like honey is a really big thing that's associated with summer solstice and bees. Something that's luxurious. Again, going back to the idea of water purification too. So the honey is tapping into the power of the sun, and you have the water of the bath. So that's kind of cool too. And sex magic too, if you have a partner, bonus points. And if not, you can still do it alone. And like I said, just, you could just sit in a circle and meditate, and you could just be embodying the divine itself and bless and purify yourself without water or without fire, especially if you're tapping into that divine masculine, like, allowing yourself to kind of, in a way, take on the essence of that being and bless yourself or whatever you want to bless. So, and that's all I got. That's it. That's what I got. So I would love to hear from the folks on our Instagram and Facebook now, because we have some people that are here with us that weren't with me at the beginning. Tell me a little bit about what your plans are for solstice this weekend. I would love to hear it. Even if it doesn't involve an actual solstice celebration. Maybe you're like, oh crap, it's a summer solstice and I don't know what I'm going to do because I totally forgot and I already have other plans. Let me know what those plans are. I want to know. Maybe we can figure out a way as a group to kind of fit something in for you. Isif says, good ideas. Thank you. I'm glad you think so. Prepare, which says, thanks very much. Also, if you have any other questions about anything, obviously throw that into the comments. I always love answering questions and getting you guys involved. I was going to talk about something I said at the end here, and I forget what it was. I don't know. Someone wants to remind me what I was going to talk about, too. That'd be swell. But yeah, so my weekend is going to be painting and my hair and spending time with my kids. Pip Harwich says that she wants to go to a stream or a waterfall. That's a great idea. Taylor says she's just here to educate herself and listen to start. That's a great place to start. it's a fantastic place to start. In fact, it's usually the first place to start. So you're doing things in the right order. Um, excuse me, like I said, anything for like the bazillionth time. I don't know if you were here the other times I said it, but anything done with intention can be a ritual. Whether it's having a cookout and saying a blessing over a meal, or having a water balloon fight, or playing a game, or picking a flower, anything can be a ritual. Isif says they're going to be going to a stream and possibly looking for herbs. Streams are a great place to look. There's a lot of things that grow in and around the damp soil that is around water sources. Like I found watercress in the woods behind my yard, which I was pretty excited about because, normally you have to pay for that and buy it and spend money at the grocery store for it. So that's really cool. Mugwort tends to grow where it's a little bit moister too. But there's lots of cool things out there. Seal of Solomon, I tend to find back there, lots of things. Senator Hearth says 7 of our community members wrote a ritual that we're going to host on live video on our Facebook page together tomorrow. Since we have folks all over the world, we incorporated Northern and Southern Hemisphere, which is super cool because I'm in the Northern Hemisphere, and I think you guys are too, but the Southern Hemisphere is actually having their winter solstice right now. And I love the idea of piggybacking those together because oftentimes when you look at the wheel of the year, when you look at the things that are opposite each other, they have a real connection. You get Beltane and Samhain, and Midsummer and Midwinter, and Imbolc and Lammas, and they really go together in a really sort of cool way. Sarah on Facebook says she loves the idea of a honey bath. I can get on board with that. Never would have considered it. Awesome. I'm glad you like that. I was wondering if you know whether Father's Day and Solstice are linked or is it coincidental? That's a fantastic question, and I don't for certain know the answer to that. Let's see. What is the origin of Father's Day? Come on, Google. Help me out. Father's Day was founded in Spokane, Washington at the YMCA in 1910 by Sonora Smart Dodd, who was born in Arkansas. So no, I think it's a complete and utter coincidence. Is Father's Day a pagan holiday? Is one of the suggested things here. So let's see. I'm curious. Mother's Day always falls on the second Sunday of May, and like so many other holidays are rooted in pagan sun worship, including Father's Day, which always falls on the third. Yeah, that's not really answering the question. That's really supposition. So I'm going to say pretty sure it's a coincidence. Pretty sure. And it's kind of cool that Sacred Hearth talks about their ritual that they're planning. I literally just the other day added this amazing new thing to my website. I'm super excited about it. It is called Children of the Celestial Sun Coven. And it is especially designed for pagan moms like me, like Sarah, like lots of folks that have a difficult time finding a community that they can practice in and feel like they're actually really welcome with their kids, where we will have live online rituals. So you sign up, and there's a fee that gets paid every 6 weeks, and that fee, depending on which version you choose, there's one that's really just the ritual itself and the live and the ritual, like the written illustrated ritual. So it includes that, which is an heirloom quality ritual. The rituals average about 10 pages, including illustrations that I myself created, that are intended to be both family-oriented and also, educational. So through the way that things are described and spoken in the ritual, it can actually help teach children about ritual and about the practice that we are performing. So it includes the ritual, which is heirloom quality. You can put it in your book of shadows. You can save it. You can use it forever, and it's beautiful. You can pass it on to your kids. And it includes the actual live ritual that we're going to have at the same time. We can all kind of get together and network, and it would be really fun. Not for Midsummer because I didn't get myself together fast enough for that, but certainly for Lammas, it's going to be a thing. And the other one, which is not just the ritual, actually includes the ritual itself, all the things I just described. I forgot that also includes access to an exclusive Facebook group for networking with those pagan moms and the other people that are in the coven. And then the second version has all of those things, plus you also get the rest of the things that usually come in my ritual bundle. So every ritual bundle that I create has the ritual itself, plus all these other ingredients that you need for the ritual itself. Like this other one I'm doing has a couple different things for the ritual. So I always, my kind of tagline usually is, includes everything you need, just add your own altar tools. So all the other things are included. You don't need to do any prep work yourself. It's just all there included, and you just have to put it together in the ritual. So if you are interested, you can go to my website, and at the very top of the page, there's a link that says Join the Coven, and it's there. You could find it. You could check it out. You have, 6 weeks from now. I don't know if you've noticed, but our holidays are usually apart from each other. So if you're interested, go and check it out. You have a good 6 weeks to, pull the plug. But I highly suggest it because I'm super excited about it, and I'm really looking forward to getting to, provide that for other people. Centered Hearth over here says, that sounds incredible. We're working on creating a Pagan Kids programming. We should connect. I mean, by all means, DM me. I'm not sure what I can do, but, I would love to chat, and maybe we can figure something out. So, that said, if nobody else has any questions or anything else they want to chat about for their solstice celebration ideas, I am going to sign off because I have been going for, about an hour, which is pretty typical. And I'm hoping that you guys have a wonderful solstice weekend and a wonderful rest of your day. So take care, you guys. Blessings.